Hello folks. Just again a continuation of what we've been looking at with relation to police, constabularies, police and crime commissioners. But in the last video I touched on George Galloway and Bradford specifically. So let's just have a look why it's important, because we need to know what was actually going on and is going on in Bradford that's different to other places that would need such secrecy, such a powerful West Yorkshire police force to implement, and George Galloway hiding it all with his super rhetoric and claims for rebellion against this so-called, as he called it, capitalist Bolshevism. He'd missed that bit out because he's tied to the left, which is exactly what we're facing. It's Bolshevism in its purest form. It's that's what it is. So I'll tell you why it's important, and why it's important that we start to recognise that these faces that we find it difficult not to warm to, because they present something, an idea that they're giving you something, you know, that they're on your side and they're rooting for you guys. When they're not. I mean, George Galloway at his core was all about a country way over there called Palestine. Why didn't he go to Palestine and be an MP? You know, if he was so concerned, why not? Why stay in Bradford? What are you doing with this rhetoric? What are you actually doing? You're gathering people's attention, but what are you actually doing? You know, as a base resonance with that behaviour. So let's look at some data from, and it goes up to 2016 this, so now we're in 2021, so it's expanded again. If we go back to 1994, opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan was at around 71,000 hectares, and not all that poppy cultivation was for heroin, because the Mujahideen were against all that. They pretty much wiped it all out, which is why they created the Taliban. That was the complete opposite of that. So, but then when you get up to 2016, so from 94 to 2016, it was 200,000 hectares specifically growing opium poppy. And by that time also, nearly almost all of the poppy cultivation was for heroin. And Afghanistan is basically, it's something like 86% of all heroin created on the earth is now coming out of Afghanistan. So this is British Empire stuff. This isn't England. This is British, Virginia Company, East India companies. This Committee of 300 global conglomerate moving now through invading Afghanistan back in 2001 after 9/11. So the shift was from the east, Vietnam, you know, those areas, previous to that India. And the shift, so the basis of the 2001 invasion of Afghanistan was clearly to shift opium production out of the east, which they'd have to do. How could the west continue if it was in the east while they're dividing us, you know, to east and west kind of thing. So you can see how important it is that people that have been involved in an office, Chief Constable in relation to Chris Rowley, George Galloway in relation to politicals, that during the time these two men were in power in and around Bradford, West Yorkshire Police for Chris, Bradford specifically for George Galloway, moving in the Taliban, which they were doing. And you know, I'm going back 12, 13, 14 years ago when there were the first problems that were being had by Muslims here, the guys that were into that kind of trade, with these Pashtun from Afghanistan. Probably about 13 years ago, or something around that time, that's when I first was told. And obviously I've been told by Muslim guys, you know what I'm saying? So that's how long this has been going on. So we can see what they've been installing in Bradford. So it's not even just as terrible as it is for what's happened in West Yorkshire under these two's watch. The real core of what they've been doing is creating the centre here on the British Isles for the networks they've now set up in Afghanistan. And they've been at it since 2001. You know, that's 20 years. 20 years of this. And Kosovo played a great part in that also back after the Yugoslavian war, because it was basically a NATO-controlled nation. And that became the centre for all that they created in the Yugoslavian war, which was, because this is where your organ trafficking began in the Yugoslavian war. And it got to the point where people were being picked up off the street because of the genetic data that the medical system had matched perfectly with some really wealthy whatever who needed their liver or whatever it may be. And that's when that started to show itself in Europe during the Yugoslavian war. And as we know today, that's just gone ballistic. So Kosovo was basically the pivot point of trade for opium, for human trafficking, and all the gun running, all the illicit black op operations that go on and keep the underworld with a currency, as it were. Well, currencies, so there's guns, you've drugs, you've security, you've all that goes with it, you know. So this is serious stuff. That's what's been going on in Bradford in the last, at least, probably more than that, since 2001 maybe, but I could recognise it. It might even be more than 13 years ago, actually. Sometimes I do get lost in time frames when I'm looking back. It's going that quick. But this has been going on for a long time. So we can now look at Galloway, who I brought into the last video, and then Chris Rowley, who is our point of interest at this time. That these are the characters that they're now shoving in on Lancashire. Not George, but Chris Rowley is being shoved upon Lancashire by Clive Grunshaw. You know, this network now that they've formed, it exists, it's active, and it's working, and it's doing its job, which is throwing heroin everywhere on the underclass. This is the kind of stuff that Chris Rowley, it's all gone on under his watch at West Yorkshire. For 25 years that man was there, you know, and that were up to 2017. So he's seen it all. He's been there and he's seen it all. And like I said, if you look at him, you can see that face is full of deceit. He knows so much that everybody else doesn't know. You can see that in them. But he does look comfortable. He appears comfortable in his position, whereas the image of Clive, he looks like he's under the pressure. You've got the big bags under the eyes. You've got that not quite out look in his eyes, but depressed look in his eyes. That the pressure he's under is no choice kind of pressure. That is just an interesting insight, again, just to how important what's gone on in Bradford has been. And now we can see it's the centre of all the opium running on the British Isles directly from Afghanistan. So that's NATO. We're dealing with NATO. That's what's creating all this and building all this. So what else have they got planned for Bradford is my thing. And more importantly, what are they setting up here in Lancashire by the police commissioner choosing Chris Rowley to become the Chief Constable of Lancashire for a 5-year term, remember. It's a fixed 5-year term. So once he gets in, he's got 5 years. Police and Crime Commissioner. All right, so we've only just slightly touched on him. And I said, who's this joker? Okay, so looking into that company that I was discussing, that's involved with Lantec. So the Lantec as a company has its main officer, its person with important interest kind of thing, is Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited. So I've started to look into this one particularly. Now, you go back to its beginnings and the Prince's Trust is involved. So straight away, okay, we're seeing high level Masonic movements, okay. And of course, we're in Lancashire. Duchy of Lancaster is, of course, the sitting monarch's playground. We've gone through the fact that my findings have shown that it's been being administered for at least 15 years on behalf of the monarch by the Grosvenors in America. The movements for that I saw back then was when I think Duke of Westminster was either Lord Lieutenant or the second in command of Cheshire, but he was doing more over here. That's a big part of what I was finding back then, if I recall. That's what sort of got me on the concerns about the fact, and this is how I come to start to see that the Grosvenors were very, very important in Lancashire, especially since they took over what was the Earl of Peel's estate in the Trough of Bowland. Basically kicked all the tenant farmers off, it had been set in the will of whomever that the tenant farmers could buy the lot upon his demise. Anyway, basically the Duke moved in, stripped everything, killed everything, and turned it into a global bird shoot for all the hoity-toits of the world who were there from the August the 12th. Full of SAS everywhere, so you can't really get through it like you used to be able to, which is pretty much open to everybody. He set his base in Lancashire then, and that's going back way time. Owen Oyston got set up in all that through Rory. That traced back to a guy called Sir Peter Blaker in Longridge. Longridge is a very important centre for this Crown high-level Masonic network. So, Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited, when you look at it, it's certificate of incorporation. As it started to grow, because I think this was 1992 when it was started, but as it started to grow, you can see that what's actually happening is the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime is gaining access into little institutions in your town, in your village, and it's giving you money. So you're supporting it, and that's how they've sort of built this network inside our communities. But once the Police and Crime Commissioner became established, it becomes a total arm of the Police and Crime Commissioner's office, to the point it's funding it. So you're getting to a point where 70 grand, 80 grand, 102 grand, etc., them kind of figures are coming from the Police and Crime Commissioner into the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited. Okay, so the Police and Crime Commissioner is choosing the Chief Constable. We've gone through that. We can now see that the Chief Constable then has to ensure the changes. So it's got to become and then remain, whatever it becomes, on orders of the Police and Crime Commissioner's office, and the Chief Constable that they're choosing is the man that's going to do that without question. And that's Chris Rowley. So not only is the Police and Crime Commissioner choosing the Chief Constable, it's also operating Lantec through the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited. Now, the last two full accounts are very revealing, because we're getting a full list of who this operation has given money to, and therefore then is getting a return in that it's expanding its intelligence network for gathering information. I've exposed in the past how young lads are then co-opted into MI5. They are part of the intelligence network, and then are training your children at football or cricket or rugby or these sporting things. And basically, this is Lancashire Partnership Against Crime getting themselves into that. And I exposed one guy in my town a few years ago who was doing just that. So this is how this little spider is weaving its web in our communities, but operating for the stakeholder communities, okay? But more importantly, that the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited is just basically an arm of the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office. Can you see that? That is quite worrying, because it's showing the might and power of this Police and Crime Commissioner's offices by definition of the fact they've blagged their way into our system for little clubs, little cliques, little groups that need money or are set up specifically by this partnership that they can then fund to expand their intelligence gathering network into your communities for the stakeholder communities. So that's very important that we start to grasp how we can see the picture of how this little game that we're uprooting is operating and operational in your areas. So, we're undermining now these little, what they used to call Nazi cells, where people are grassing on each other, when they shouldn't really be doing that, because you're actually operating for the occupation. Ignorantly, that may be the case, but come on, people need to start snapping out of this, and you snap out of this now by fully understanding what role you're playing in this complete and utter takeover, where they want to vaccinate you to death, and if you don't, you're not going to get any food, you're not going to get any water, you're not going to get services, they'll be cutting your electric off, they'll be cutting your gas off. It'll be like every jack shit piece of private operation all of a sudden wants to see that you've got this shit shoved in your arm. I mean, look what they're doing with the children now. They're piss-arsing around with this lockdown garbage, pretending it's dangerous. But all they've just done in all this magic in the last 4 weeks, phase 1 doesn't stop of this operation until 2025. That's from the IMF's own website. This is phase 1 of an operation. Phase 2 is 225 to 230. This is about pulling everything into the new system under climate garbage. There'll be no cows. There'll be nothing but Sharia sheep. You won't be able to eat anything with any value of nutrition and vitamin, They're blocking the sun, vitamin D getting destroyed, They're getting you to take this crap medication when it's India have tested this particular drug and are now so happy with it, they send it out to every pharmacy in India. Are you press telling you about it? Are the media telling you about this? No, they're not. That's how it kills pneumonia, cancer cells, and has an amazing effect if anybody has the symptoms they're calling COVID-19, which, in my opinion, still, what we're playing with this so-called disease that people say that there is, it's not a virus, this is pneumonia. What I'm seeing is that they've, by some means, they've created lung issues. Now, a lot of people are saying they're spraying it. It could be in the food. It could be localised spraying at night. Who knows? But whatever's happening, they are getting this around that's affecting people's lungs. And I did have something about 3 years ago. And I thought I was dying when it actually happened. My lungs stopped working. It just collapsed. The left lung. It completely collapsed, But it was a slow process to it. I kept coughing. And then slowly the cough got worse. And obviously I was puffing on fags as well. And yeah, it collapsed. So there is something going around that is quite serious, and it's relating to the lungs. So what I'm seeing, and I'm sort of speaking this for the first time really, but this is what I'm seeing in the background with everything I've been looking at in relation to this game, is that they've managed to get a lot of lung issues going on by whatever methods. And that what's happening is people are ill, and if they can, and they're managing these situations to get worse, not to get rid of the problem, but they're managing it. And now they seem to be exacerbating it by not resuscitating, not giving medication. So they've got this thing going, and then they're managing it by not treating it, then calling it COVID-19. So that's my opinion in relation to what I'm seeing, because there is something clearly going on that's killing people. It is respiratory. And I just had a chat with a mate of mine whose mother died before Christmas, and they're saying it's of COVID. And obviously there's a bit of family not current because she had pneumonia. But just listen to what he said. The Kerr he were getting wasn't Kerr. That were a management of making sure she left this place. And it really looks to me like what they're doing with the Muslim communities is killing off all the old guys that first came here, that have lived here for the majority of their life, and understand and still recognise the difference from where they came from, why they came over here, and why they enjoy this place far better than where they were before. And that pans out with what I know about, a lot of these origin countries for some of these guys. So I know that's a fact. And a lot of them, they're the people, they're the generation that do recognise the benefits they've had from coming here by not dragging where they've come from here, by obeying the Quran and living by the laws of the nation. I mean, that's got confused today because people think government administration law is law. It's not. That you're in breach of the Quran there because the Quran's clear to obey the laws of the nation, and government policy is not the law. It's just administrative law, legislation, yeah? I mean, we're operating on guidelines at the moment. They don't even call it guidelines. So, yeah, they're confounding everything, obfuscating everything. But what I think they're doing, because there does seem to be a larger percentage of black guys and Muslim Asian folks who are succumbing of a certain age. Now, that's not to say there's not a lot of white people, or pink, as we're a bit more pink than white. Same there, the elderly are getting demolished because they're costing. But when it comes to the Muslims, I'm quite sure what they're actually doing is killing off the sensible attitude that we've sort of has been formed while they've been here since the 50s, because that's the kind of generation of people I know. And I know a lot of the younger ones as well, and there is a complete distinction between the two. It's the younger generations they've took on all the benefits that they get here because that's all they know. They were born here. A lot of them have gone over there, so they do know they're not, because they don't like it over there. None of them are rushing to go and live over there because they can't stand it. But they're the ones that are then being taken up with this garbage Islam that's being thrust out via Rothschilds through the Euro Garage brothers and these other wealthy commercial folks who are building the mosques, pulling the community in and giving them this obfuscated idea of the Quran, and then building the Sharia in that false premise and having all the Muslims submit off the mark. So they're submitting to the Sharia that's not following the Quran, so they're not operating under the Quran. And I can see that going on there with them, and they're not recognising that, and that's their pitfall that they need to start to recognise and pull themselves out of. You've got Israel now, where obviously it's the Noahide centre. They have to be the first to kick off the passport to get food, to get electric, to get gas, etc. It has to be the first. And now all of a sudden they're getting excited about it here. You've got to stop thinking these are just, oh, look at that. These are major plans. This is phase one. It's phase one. That's what it is. This is just phase one. So the more you comply with it, the more power you give them to keep furthering it. At some point you have to go, that's enough, stop. If the test is important, you don't take that. They're inserting polymer. And do you know what's really, 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 really shocking to me is that more and more people now, their point of argue as to whether they take it or not is not their health. Their health doesn't even come into it. They're not even contemplating the health risks for it. The main criteria on which they're deciding is, but I want to go on holiday. Now, I know you're not computing the insanity of that, the immature attitude that's created that, but you really need to start to recognise that that's not right. That's odd. That is, whoa, you're not putting yourself, who's responsible for your children, first. You're putting nonsense first. Where did everybody used to go on holiday before Spain? This place is full of holiday places. They're just a bit derelict. They need the life force. They need flesh and blood going there, spending the pennies. Because if we're going to build, to keep our economy as ours, we have to choose where we spend our money. And spending it in these conglomerate corporate operations like the Asda, the Tesco, KFC, McDonald's alone, you see, this is another part of the big spider's web. They're the companies that are going to do all this dancing. Coca-Cola now in America are teaching all their staff how to be less white. You get that? I don't care what Black Lives Matter say. I don't care what anybody says. That is pish. That's racist. It's bigotry. And it needs stamping out. Quick. And anybody that supports that kind of attitude needs stamping out. You're pointless on this earth. You've run your day. You've ended it with you being a complete retard. You know, just because the Bolsheviks are funding that attitude doesn't mean it's right. It just means you're looking after your own ass. Well, it won't wash. You know what I'm saying? You're just making yourself look ridiculous. Okay, there's a few points I just wanted to get across because we'll further this Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited, because when you start looking into the operations that it's funding and therefore got power and control in as an intelligence network gathering information, you might be quite surprised. And remember, this is, again, fully and utterly controlled by the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime, which is the Police Commission and Crime Commissioner's Office. So that's Clive Brunshaw, who's just chose a really, really seriously high-level deceiver to become the Chief Constable of Lancashire Constabulary. Okay, so it's Certificate of Incorporations. It's company number 3328436. Company full name, the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited, and it's being set off by a guy called Andrew James Kerwin of Cobbett's Ship Canal House, King Street in Manchester, M2 4WB. So this is a Lancashire titled organisation, but set up in Manchester. Okay, that might not be too strange. On the 24th of February. And this is 1997. And the solicitors are Cobbett Solicitors, Ship House, Canal, King Street, Manchester. Yeah, okay. It says the Lancashire Partnership Against Crime. It says the objectives are to promote crime prevention and community safety education in and around the county of Lancashire for the public benefit, to increase the quality of life through the reduction and prevention of crime and the protection of both people and property from criminal acts in and around the county of Lancashire. In furtherance of the objectives, but not otherwise, the company may exercise the following powers: to draw, make, accept, endorse, discount, execute and issue promissory notes, bills, cheques and other instruments, and to operate bank accounts in the name of the company, to raise funds and invite and receive contributions, provided that in raising funds the company shall not undertake any substantial permanent trading activities and shall conform to any relevant statutory regulations, to acquire, alter and improve, subject to such consents as may be required by law, to charge or otherwise dispose of property. And subject to clause 5 below, employ staff who shall not be directors of the company, hereinafter referred to as the trustees, as are necessary for the proper pursuit of the objectives, and to make all reasonable and necessary provision for the payment of pensions and superannuation to staff and their dependents, to establish and support any charitable trusts, associations or institutions formed for all or any of the objects. Formed for all. So they're very clear that they're going to establish their own little cells everywhere. To cooperate with other charity voluntary bodies and statutory authorities operating in furtherance of the objectives or similar charitable purposes, and to exchange information and advice with them. To pay out of the funds of the company the costs, charges and expenses of the incidental to the formation and registration of the company. To do all the such lawful things as are necessary for the achievement of the objectives. Okay, so lawful, they're saying. They so misuse these terms, it's quite ridiculous. Now it says, appointment and retirement of directors, 36. The following persons and organisations, permanent organisations, for as long as each of them remain a member of the company, shall have the right from time to time to appoint the following numbers of persons to the office of director of the company. So these permanent organisations are allowed to appoint from their own. So Lancashire Constabulary can appoint 2. And then it has a bit of in brackets, of whom one shall be the Chief Constable for the time being if willing to act. So it wasn't a dead cert that the Chief Constable were on board back then in 97. The Lancashire County Council can appoint 1. The Lancashire Police Authority can appoint another. The Lancashire branch of the Association of District Councils can appoint a director. And then it just says underneath, together A directors, and each of them an A director. So that's how it began. Lancashire Constabulary, Lancashire County Council, Lancashire Police Authority, Lancashire branch of the Association of District Councils, Lancashire County Probation Service. Go to the first file of accounts, of full accounts. We get 2003, and it says directors. The principal activity. The principal activity of the company in the year under review was that of a charity whose purpose is to promote for the public benefit in partnership with the police, the protection of people and property. Okay, so directors in 2003, Thomas William Starkey, Tim Amore, Sharu Ainscough, John Barnett, MBE, Brian Booth, University CCMI, I'm not sure what that is, Arthur Brooks, John Crawford, Keith Gledhill, MBE, Ruth Hennig, CBE, Julia Hodson, Malcolm Thomas McVicker, Catherine O'Connor, Michael J. Saunders, Donald Wilkinson, Robert Wilkinson, Stephen Warlock, and Paul Stevenson, QPM. So they're the directors in 2003, the donations. So during the following year, the company made the following charitable donations totaling 18,085. Sorry, 1,800. No, anyway. So it gave donations to Asian Business Foundation, Lancashire Council Voluntary Youth Service, LWN Men, LJLA, Child Victims of Crime, and Lampak Shrivalti. So that's Lampak that we've discussed before. Now, so let's have a look at Project Expenditure they've got down. It's Longridge Road Tennis Club, Friends Greenfield Gardens, Elswick Juniors FC, Burnley Information Providers, Haslam Printers, Cherry Tree Cricket Club, John McCartney, Neighbourhood Watch, Clover Hill Residents Association, Lower Bank Hall Community Association, Goosenor CCTV, Townley House CCTV, TriStar Printers. So where you see CTV, you've got this group funding, getting that in, that they can then access. Police can access everything. If it's not on a wire, if you're using Wi-Fi for your camera system, this system, police intelligence can access it at any time they want. And your telly, and your fridge, and your freezer, and your washer, and Alexa, and your phone. Yeah, you get me, that's the smart grid. The Internet of Things. That's interesting. When you look at that, you can see this is 2003, and this is how they're getting expanding the web. So football clubs, tennis clubs, neighbourhood watches, that's getting the little grass networks going on, and Townley House, CCTV, and Goosenor, so they're funding that because they have access. So it's all about expanding their reach into our communities. So that's 2003. So now we're on to 2004, full filing of accounts. The original donations are the same, and then the project expenditure changes. So this is what they're classing as project expenditure, not donations. A donation is you give it to someone to get on with it. Expenditure is you're involved heavily. So expenditure for 2004 was to Lancashire Police Authority. They gave Lancashire Police Authority 48,660 quid. And they gave Lancashire County Council 2,545. And this is again in furtherance of the company's objectives. So to further their objectives, they give Lancashire Police Authority 48 grand, nearly 49 grand. Lancashire County Council 2.5 grand. Preston Soccer Centre, APPS, Brunshaw. Brunshaw got 45,800. CPL, Accrington Residents Association, Age Concern, Lancashire Fire and Rescue, Curtin, Preston City Council, Penwitham Community Club, Victim Support, St Joseph's, Attock Cricket Team, Constabulary Football Team, Whitworth Community High, Brearcliff Residents, Fullage Colts, Longridge Road Tennis Club, Friends Greenfield Gardens, Ellswick Juniors, Burnley Information Providers, Aslan Printers, Cherry Tree Cricket Club. So that's the same again. So more to Goosenhart CCTV and more to Townley House CCTV. So they're expanding the CCTV network in where the public go. So TriStar Printers. So that might be an addition to the 2003. So you can see furthering their objectives. This is how they've done it, just giving little clubs money, opening up the network. So that's 2006. Just an interesting point. It says here, the charity has a close relationship with Lampac Limited. A summary of the transactions with the company is set out in note 8 of the financial statements. There's been quite a lot of resignations as directors, leaving only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 left. And some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 left. So 12 have gone. There's 11 left remaining. Donations that it made in 2006 to Lancashire Council Voluntary Youth Service, National Missing Persons, NW Army Cadet Force. Oh yeah, get the cadets in. That's perfect for the brown shirt game. Lancashire Army Cadets. So that's their donations that year now. Their expenditure. So that's 2006. 2009, it's got 17 directors, new ones, others gone. Donations for 2009. This donation tree is getting rather big. So, in 2009, during the year, the following donations were received in the furtherance of the company's objectives. Alcohol Education Council, 3.5 grand. Andy Pratt, Best Boy Non, 6 grand. Chorley Rotary, Church and Community Fund, DJ Beckett, 8 grand. Edelman, 2 grand. Florence Charity, Florence Trust, Phoneback, Football League, Lancon. Lancashire Police got 8 grand. Lampac BPA Dinner, 1,727. Lookers, Morecambe FC, N-Watch, Office Fittings, Police Authority, oh, they only got 45 quid. Preston Museum, a grand. Rotary BP Call, Ship Solutions, Sutcliffe Cycles, Warren and Wignall, Rank Foundation, Burnley, 15 grand. Rank Foundation, Blackpool, 25 grand. PVE, 25 grand. HMRC, 300,000. Now they're getting into figures. Expenditure. A. Catterall, Aidan Tudor Print, Amy Niklowitz, Bettany, Anti-Bullying Magician, BCT, Best Boy Non gets 2,865, Broadgate Cycles, Curtin Theatre, Community Gateway Association, Crime Stoppers gets 2.5 grand, East Lancashire Primary Care Trust, Euxton Villa XT, FC, Gainsborough Flooring, Gill Head, Haslam Printers 2.5 grand, Ingle Youth Association, JNA Marketing, John Harrison Sports, LACAP, Lancashire Fire Authority, Lancaster City Council, Lancorn Juniors, Lancashire Police Authority, 63,627. Oh, this is a funder of the Lancashire Police Authority at this time, which is 2009. LUSU Limited, Malcolm Rose. That got LUSU Limited, I don't know what that is, got 3,336. Malcolm Rose. Mebs Electrical. Morecambe FC, got £3,500. National Football Museum. North Valley Youth Club. Palmer Publicity. Penwitham Town Council. Preston and South Ribble Street Pastors, got £2,500. Preston Nitya Pastors, yeah. Evangelicals. Food banks. Alright, they're getting money to do the bidding of the Lancashire Police Authority at this stage. But bearing in mind, Police and Crime Commissioners haven't come in yet, but at this stage, it's all going back to Lancashire Police Authority. Now here we go. Preston and South Ribble Street, yeah. Preston Neighbourhood Watch Association, Preston Soccer Centre, Prince's Trust. Now then, Prince's Trust is getting in it, okay? PSL, S Brown. S Brown got £4,500. Solon Security. South Ribble Borough Council. St Anne's PCC. Thomas Taylor. Toys and Fun. Traveller's Choice Uniform. Henry Smith Charity got £15,000. Rank Foundation Burnley at 13,604. And Rank Foundation Blackpool £25,000. So this Rank Foundation is very important to this, whatever that is. I've not looked into it. I'm sure I will. So that's 2009. So it's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. And Lancashire Police Authority is getting a lot of lolly. Now we're up to 2015, because not every year they don't always put full accounts up. This is where you get the guts of the info. Now by this time now, the trustees, they're calling themselves, not directors, they present themselves as trustees, but are also classed as directors. So they're using the term trustees. Now, it seems to have acquired quite a few more hoity-toity OBEs, MBEs, etc. So I'll give you a bit of a read. Just James Christopher Owenfield, CBE. He's the chairman, John, and this is 2015. John Boyner, MBE. Roger James Dudley Berry, David Barrow, Alan Martin Donkin, MBE. Susanna Edwards, Clive Grunshaw. So Clive Grunshaw now appears, this is 2015, as a director of Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited, okay? So 2015, Clive Grunshaw enters Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited as the director. Ewart Alan Jolly, OBE. Dr. Alison Elizabeth Jones. Michael Stephen Kelly, Ibrahim Master. Dennis Mendoros, OBE. DL, OBE. Catherine O'Connor, MA. Gail Louise Porter. Gail Porter. Now I know that name. David Ronald Smith, OBE. Edwin John Walsh, MBE. Ian Wood, Altaf Hussein Youssef. Company Secretary, Ian Young, Auditors, Moore and Smalley LLP. Winkley Square. This is a serious Crown operation, this fellas. Woohoo! So, what are the donations? Where are we? Here we go. Donations received now. We get Right, during this year, the following donations were received in furtherance of the company's objectives. So this is interesting now, because now we're getting to see who's backing this Lancashire Partnership Against Crime Limited. And so it says, Corporate Mobile Recycling, Florence Charitable Trust gave it 5,036 quid. That's Florence Charitable Trust. H&T Pawnbrokers gave it 2,245. Humberstones gave it 3,150. Lancashire Police. What's Lancashire Police? What is that? Just says Lancashire Police gave it 20,200. Okay. Northern Beat gave it 10,500. PayPal gave it 2,200. Now then. Here we go, 2015. Grunshaw's in. And now we have as donator, Police and Crime Commissioner. Police and Crime Commissioner donated 37,500 quid in 2015. So here we go. Police and Crime Commissioner coming in. RAOB SHP Limited, sundry donations of £500. Expenditure. During the year, the following project expenditure was incurred in furtherance of the company's objectives. Action for the community and town at the Cheethams, ADI Coventry, AFC Fylde Community Foundation, Asian Women's Forum, Broadgate's Resident Action Group, Callan Kids Community Club, Community Gym Longridge, Creative Minds, Florence Charitable Trust, Freestyle Urban Soccer, Fusion Youth, Filed by the Council, Hate Crime Hub, 11 grand they gave to the Hate Crime Hub. Helen Cooper, intermadras.org. Most of these are between 1 to 2 grand, the donations. So they're getting 11,137 to Hate Crime Hub. Intermadras.org, RQRA Educational Trust, L&S Pact, L&E Foundation, Lancashire Police. They gave Lancashire Police. Who's Lancashire Police? That's not Lancashire Police Constabulary. Who are Lancashire Police? That might be a bit of wizardry going on there. It looks like it's a separate organisation. And they got 16.5 grand off Lancashire Partnership Against Crime. And bearing in mind, Police and Crime Commissioners in as well also now at this stage. Lancaster Cycle Scheme got 10 grand. Lancaster Grand, Lancaster University Preston, Michael Booth, Nelson FC, Ormskirk Pastors, other sundry grants, Preston Soccer Development Centre, Robert Evans, Skelmersdale Action for Youth, Solon Security, Star Centre, Safeguarding Project, Upfront Theatre. And that it totalled 105 grand, 400 quid. Biggest receiver was Lancashire Police at 16.5 grand. Some more project expenditure here. Volunteer Burnley, West Lancs, The Ark, White Horse Project, Windrush initiatives. Look at this. This Windrush initiatives, they do net but scrape their eyeballs out and cause havoc. These buggers are funding breach of the peace. Anyway, that's what it looks like to me. That's it. It's outrageous. So there you go. Lancashire Police Commissioner is now in. Clive Grunshaw's in. Boom. So there we go, 2015. 2016, directors pretty much the same with a couple of resignations. Donations. Project Expenditure. AFC Fylde Community Foundation, Burford Cricket Club, Blackburn and Darwin Youth Awareness, Blackpool and Fylde Street Angels, Blackpool Cadet Deborah, Blackpool FC Community Trust, Blackpool Musical School, Broadgate Residents Action Groups. Now, bear in mind, Blackpool is now full of heroin addicts. That is what it's known for. It's completely and utterly full. I mean, Blackpool used to be the place that if you run into any trouble in your town, that's where you go. Because back in the day, all the Masonic lodges affiliated with Blackpool Lodge. That was how powerful Blackpool was. Which, it makes sense, you've got Wharton. That's now changed some. All the lodges locally have amalgamated with Rosendale. So that's the change that's gone on with the lodges, which, given now it's looking like what they're carrying out in Blackpool, so you've got the direct voice-to-mind technology coming out of Wharton. So anybody that goes to Blackpool now are running the risk of having just suggested stuff thrown into their mind as a voice, which you would remember. A lot of people probably won't talk about it, but that is what's going on in Blackpool. So if you're going to Blackpool a lot, you'd be a bit careful of what kind of thoughts you're getting over there because they're implanted. And Blackpool, as I said, now is full of heroin addicts. That seems to be what it's synonymous with. And Blackpool seems to be of interest now. They're getting quite a lot of stuff. And again, you've got to remember, a lot of this stuff is it's getting them their hands into the youth. Yeah? You've got to remember where they created the brown shirts. This is part and parcel of how that mechanic takes place. It's by influencing. Broadgate Resident Arts Action Group, Burnley Wood Community Centre. These are in region from £1.5 to £2.5 they're getting. Curtain Theatre Company, Clayton Youth Centre, Clitheroe Youth Forum, Crime Prevention Neighbourhood Watch, Digging Northwest, Double R Arts, Dostit BME Forum, Eagles Wings, Every Action Has Consequences, Equality Time, First Up Holland Scout Group, Fishwick Rangers Youth, Friends of HRP, Friends of HS Park, Friends of Rose School, Fylde Borough Council, Fylde Sports Trust, Fylde Together, Fylde Walking Football Club, Great Preston Sports Project, Lancashire Council of Mosques. So they're bringing in now the radicalised commercial frontmen within the Muslim communities, and they are very, very. It's all about them. They have to build the mosques. If you understand how the Muslim community works, whoever controls the mosque is in control of the entire community, because the way it works is, if you're not going to mosque, you're ostracised. If you're not going to mosque and obeying the mosque and giving it money, you're ostracised, okay, by the community. So that's how the mosque system works. So these people, from the get-go, the way that they're gathering power within the Muslim communities is by building the mosques. The bigger the better. So the mosque building families, they're all tied to big money. They're all tied to the Rothschild network that's inserting itself into the Muslim communities. So now here we go, 2016, and they're sort of expanding their move into the Muslim communities with their intelligence network. Lancashire Sports and Arts Foundation, Lancaster Grand, Lancashire Youth Challenge, Larks in the Park, Men Against Violence. That totals 65,291,000. More Project Expenditure, Mill Hill FC. Muslim Hate Crime Phone Line. So can you see now they're setting up this grass system. Nelson Football Club, Pennine Oaks, Piggy Park Community Garden, Positive Opportunities Foundation, Preston Cadets, Deborah, Preston Soccer Development, Prince's Trust, Reform for Life, Release into Victory, Rotary Club of Fleetwood, Readings Park North NHW, SCEM Action for Youth, South Shore CC, St Oswald's Parochial Church Council, Summer Fun for All, sundry other grants totaling 26 grand, but they're not telling you it's for. Clever. Sweeney's Multisports, Tanhouse Morris Dancers, Tamterton Village Centre, The Free Project, The Leyland Project, The White House Project, Three Leaves, Upfront Theatre, Volunteer Burnley, Volunteer in Brazil, West End Development, Residents Group, Westview Football Team, Whiteworth Horticultural Society, Youth-Based Action. All about youth. But look at that. They're now not naming police authority or... yeah. And showing the biggest figure at 26,361 as sundry other grants. So people must have been cottoning on back in 2016, because this is the problem with Companies House. They should be made to do full accounts every year, and then you get all the information that you need, but they only do it occasionally. So there's big gaps in relation to what grammar you can get from the full account file. It doesn't mean it's not in there in other documents, but obviously time is of the essence. You're getting the idea of what I'm saying here with this little charitable status limited company filled with MBEs. So it's a playground of the crown for sure, and they're getting into all youth projects, football, etc., etc., evangelical kind of systems. Now you can see them getting into the Muslim communities, mosques, encouraging people to tell tales. 2017, not much change in trustees, directors. It says objectives and activities. Lancashire Partnership Against Crime was established in 1992 and is a partnership of Lancashire business, public service and voluntary organisations working together to reduce levels of crime and disorder across Lancashire, Blackpool and Blackburn with Darwin. Now it says achievements. The charity's main activity continues to be the payment of grants for projects linked to the prevention of crime. Many of the schemes the charity helps were designed to reassure and protect the vulnerable and elderly, reduce incidents of criminal damage and antisocial behaviour, reduce vehicle crime and domestic burglaries, in addition to engaging with young people to introduce them into constructive leisure time activities. Yes, staying on your Xbox. now you stay and you can't go out at all. The charity continues to award grants on application. Each grant application is reviewed and authorised where it is considered to satisfy the objectives of the charity. Right, so, you know, that's basically where it's going. So, it's very good at it, and its network is quite large now. So this is 2017 we're up to, and again, I'm not seeing any donations being presented. So they're hiding. They've got a bit smarter, and they've realised that such can actually make a bit of a mess of it. So 2017 Project Expenditure. It says, during the following year, Project Expenditure was incurred in furtherance of the company's objectives. Then it says, Police and Crime Commissioner donations. So now it's being classed as donations given by the Police and Crime Commissioner. Office himself. When really it's still Lancashire Partnership Against Crime. So he's nicked it. So basically this were obviously being set up from the get-go in order it could be taken over by the Police and Crimes Commission. So this is how it's subverted our law enforcement. So the Police and Crime Commissioner donations, it says now, are to ACT, Asian Women's Network, can you see, pulling them in, Blackpool Music School, Bodies in Motion, Clitheroe Youth Forum, Digging the Northwest, Ellswick Youth Club, EMUS UK CIC Ridge Community Centre, Fleetwood Fireworks, Freestyle Urban Soccer, Friends of Hope Street Park, Friends of Louise Horrocks Park, Fylde Coast Youth Theatre Company, Fylde Sports Trust, Fylde Walking Football Group, Jubilee Action Group, Keep Safe Online, Lancaster and Lakes Jewish Community. Oh, they're getting the Jews involved in it now. Lancaster Street Pastor, so that's the Evangelicals, Lancs Equalities Org. Where am I? Lancs Sports and Arts Foundation, Little Harwood Community Centre, Men Against Violence, Opportunity Sports Foundation, Piggy Park Garden Association, Positive Opportunity Group, Preston Soccer Centre, Release into Victory, Ripon Reds JFC, South Ribble Netball Club, St Luke's Anglican Church, Stanhope Village Committee, Tanhouse Morris Dancers, the FC Foul Community. Now, when you're getting into the churches, it's Alpha courses. That's what gives this Alpha Lodges the mitts into everything. So, my guess, St Luke's Anglican Church being on there, what that's telling me is Alpha must be playing a big part in relation to what this network can get its paws into, just as a bit of an insight there. Stanhope Village Community, Tanhouse Morris Dancers, AFC Foul Community, the Friendship Foundation, Haythorne Waite Sports Foundation, UR Potential, Walton North End FC, West Lancashire Skate Park Group, West Lancs Arc, and that totaled grants of 80,511. And general grants and donations, so we are getting donations, but it's down the bottom. Antisocial behaviour, Aslington banned, bouncing to success, burglary prevent, help secure the community, junior citizens, Mad Max Cart, EAPA, Marsh Community Centre, Operation Light, Operation Motive, 2016, Operation Motive 5, we are in 2017 by the way, Operation Motive, Operation Peen, Park It, Raising Awareness of Human Trafficking, Revolution Settlement, Ribble Valley Mounted, South Ribble Netball Club, Still, which is the company, Chainsaws, yeah, and sundry other grants to 4,800. So you can see its balance sheet's expanding as it moves, and you know each time we're reading these files, there's a lot of new names. There are names that have obviously done a really good job at carrying out their agenda, but you're getting a lot of new names in. This is why I'm going through them, because you'll have heard of it if it's in your locale. You get a picture, you can see, oh, wait a minute, what's that connecting to? And you can start to see now this Bolshevik network showing itself. So that's 2017. 31st March 2020. Not much of a change in directors. Grunshaw's still there. Laura Sales is the secretary. Now, There's probably a bit more info that I shouldn't read, but let's just get back to what we're putting out at this point, which is the expenditure. So we can see again just how big this network has become. So this is of 31st of March 2020, and it's again, police. It says during the following year, Project Expenditure was incurred in the furtherance of the company's objectives, and it titles itself Police and Crime Commissioner donations. So it's no longer being given by Lancashire Partners Against Crime. It's all being given out by the Police and Crime Commissioner donations because they want everybody to love it. Money always makes you love something. But then you run out of that money, so you've either got to stop or carry on obeying, and then you get more money. Ooh. So it's give donations to Face, Riddings Park, Friends of the East Pines Park, Lancashire Equalities.org, Skirton Com Association, Preston Pirates, Preston Soccer Centre, Tanterton Village Centre, the Billy Project, Antaros Community, Skelmersdale Action for Youth, Elysium, Kingsfall Football Club, West Lancs Arc, U2 Get Fit, the Billy Project, Tanhouse Community Enterprise, Empower the Invisible, Social Business Company, Disability Northwest, Clitheroe Youth, Accrington Sea Cadets, £3,000. Oh no, wait a minute, sorry, 1,100. ZS Defence Academy, ooh, £3,000. Portview for You, Inspiring Grace, Lancs Collaborative Ministry, Evangelical, £2,500. Fishwick Rangers, Ironburn Arts, AFC Filed, NRG Health and Fitness, Chorley Community Group, Washington Group, School Street, Arts to Heal, Tanhouse Morris, Lemon Dance, Friends of Hope, Longridge Community Arts, Halton Community Arts, Watch Us Grow, and that totaled 88,661. And Project Expenditure, General Grants and Donations, PSL, Alan Coventry, other Archstone in Preston, the Memorial Gardens, Solon Security, Andy Barlow, Summer Kicks, Overwire Rural Crime Initiative, Gorstang Rural Crime Initiative, Knife Crime and Gangs Education, Skelmersdale Community Football, Bogus Door Callers, Ribbleton's Community Gang Get Together. Remember, people, I have an associate who works with the Child Services, and I was informed quite a number of years ago that all those stabbings that were going on in London by these young black kids were all being housed in Chorley, all of them. And I made a big fuss about it then so that people could keep their eyes out that if these people are being released up north to actually accept this knife game going up here. So keep that in mind there. So, and they're now funding this bunch, Knife Crime and Gangs Education. So can you see they're getting their hands into that kind of stuff? Bogus Door Callers, Ribbleton Community Get Together, Jenny Marketing Engage Project, Brighter Life Summit Project, Signal Defender Wallets, Home Security Leaflets, Design Mark, David Quinn, Cole Calling Signs, Design Mark, British Transport Police, Lockett Market, Operation Flying Dove, Collins and Son, Preston Councils, the Sporty Police Project, Festive Online Shopping Warning, Insecure Vehicles Pop, Crime Prevention Conferences, Jingle Bells, Op Chastity, Up Northwood, Romance Fraud Warning, Bradley Viewgates Project, Bike Coding, West Lancashire BC, Street Games, and We Are Watching You. Just to add to 2020, it says, funds are raised in the charity largely from donations through the trading subsidiary Lampac Limited. We also raise funds from various events and annual memberships fees received by our members. Lampac members represent the complete spectrum of Lancashire's business and public services, including the police, local authorities, national companies with branches in the county, small local firms, places of worship, and even sole traders. No organisation is too large or small, and our graduated system of membership fees is designed to ensure that no one is excluded. We believe that our members exemplify the best of Lancashire people who understand the importance of corporate social responsibility and its growing impact, both on their working environment and in the way they themselves are perceived by the customers. Now, I'm a member of the local Chamber of Trade, and I've been showing in these last 3 years that there were 4 people originally playing against chamber on behalf of the council, but it's also on behalf of this bunch of Johnny-come-latelys as well. One of them's died, and there are 3 remaining, but it looks like they've recruited another one who was on Sky TV. So we'll have to wait and see on that one as whether that pans out as correct, or whether a young lady just wanted to face mugshot all over Sky TV. So we can see this is where they're getting their intelligence from into how to actually entrap people in already existent operations. Chamber of Trade being a prime example. For instance, the chairman, if you go anywhere near his place, he records everything. Who's recording that for? This bunch of shitbags. Okay? Lancashire Partners Against Crime Limited, Land Pack Limited, Police and Crime Commissioner. Just as an ad, in 2018, they donated to the Duke of Edinburgh Silver Award. So you've got Prince's Trust in there, and you've got Duke of Edinburgh Silver Award. The man who's about to pop his clogs, and let's hope they're not going to release a virus to pretend that he's actually come back as exactly what he wanted to be back in the 1980s. Food for thought. And with that, my good friends, till the next time.